Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. An apparent injury for Joseph Parker was the reason that he turned down an IBF final eliminator with Filip Hrgovic. Well, at least that's what the New Zealand media is reporting. So we'll get to that, and then a few other things, because not all of this adds up against the backdrop of some of what Parker has said just a day ago before this stuff has come out. So we'll cover that. And then also, if his elbows are actually an issue that is precluding him from taking this fight, which I'm not so sure it is, but if it is, well, that obviously is a red flag. Anyway, first things first. So the headline here, Parker's IBF title eliminator scrapped due to worrisome elbow niggle. I'm not sure the reporter wrote this. This might have been a sub-editor, because obviously it can't be Parker's IBF title eliminator if he'd ever took it. But anyway, the reporter goes on to say, Parker was next in line, but Newshub understands he's seeking medical advice on his worrisome elbows that have caused him issues for several years. And then later in the story, it goes on to say, the Parker camp have apparently declined the IBF offer as they await a diagnosis on his elbows, but Newshub understands the money on offer was well below the team's asking price. And that in itself is quite interesting and a bit deceptive, because obviously the reporter's spoken to someone, but we've already had it loud and clear from the Sauerland brothers of Wasserman Boxing, who promote Filip Hrgovic, saying publicly, no offers have been made to anyone except the offer, do you want to take the fight? No monetary offer has been made to anyone, not to Luis Ortiz, who turned it down, and apparently there was a small hand fracture for Ortiz that popped out of the woodwork, and now these elbow issues for Joseph Parker. So as per Boxing Scene, we weren't given a reason, says Kalle Sauerland to Sky Sports. The rankings become a mockery. We've gone through the rankings before. This isn't about rejecting financial terms, because fighters are rejecting us before we even discuss that. They are rejecting an opportunity to fight for the world title. So automatically, some of what's being said in this latest story from Newshub, and we're going to get to a second one because there are some things from the story from the day before that completely contradict and put the issue of this injury, these elbows, into question. But clearly, they can't decline a financial offer if one was never made. So the reporting there, not great, but obviously the reporter's been fed something that would lead him to believe that the offer wasn't good enough. In fact, no offer was made except, do you want this fight? So the takeaway from this article is the elbow injuries are being relied upon as a reason to put out publicly that he couldn't take this fight. But just a day ago, the same news outlet published a story on Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker reveals mid-fight burst eardrum, almost derailed win over Derek Chisora. So he recounts some of the fight and all this sort of stuff. And this injury is almost healed. He's basically back in the gym. And this is the thing. He says in this video clip, which you can check out at your leisure, go to newshub.co.nz to the boxing page, towards this end of it. He says he's back in Tyson Fury's gym, training, enjoying himself, all that sort of thing. And I'll come to a clip in a moment. But he says, I've only just recovered, yada, yada, yada. So we come down further. He's talking about the link up with Andy Lee, obviously Kevin Barry, some comments there, all that sort of stuff. Interesting, it says Parker's deal with Matchroom is up. Promoter Eddie Hearn has until January 19 to offer Parker and manager David Higgins a new deal. So his 2022 fight path will become clearer in a few weeks. It's not to say he can't take a fight elsewhere as well. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what direction he goes, but you'd say he's going to stick with Matchroom. But it says Parker wants to return to the ring as early as March, and his win over Chisora has his name on the end of every potential challenger's tongue. So Parker is looking to return to the ring as early as March. The reporter didn't just make this up. He's obviously been told it. He's interviewed Parker. There's an abridged clip that's 2 minutes long. The interview's probably longer than that, where this has obviously been disclosed. So you've got apparently these dodgy elbows that they need a diagnosis for, But Parker is talking about returning to the ring as early as March, which is, 2.5 months away or so, just over that. So what does that really mean? And it also talks about, I'd love to fight Andy or Dillian again, and everyone is talking about Hrgovic, but he's not that well-known a name, so the stakes need to be right, and that's a key bit. So the stakes need to be right. At the end of the day, I want to get back to that world title, so if it makes sense, then I'm there. So he's saying he'll fight Hrgovic, but the money's got to be right. Then a day later, you've got the story saying that he's pulled out because of these elbow injuries. So he was willing to return to the ring in March and targeting March, and okay to fight Hrgovic if the money's right, but then a day later, elbows dodgy, need to get checked out, and apparently there was an offer and it was well below the team's asking price. I mean, what is it? Because that's clearly not true. But in terms of Joseph Parker, you've actually got him in Tyson Fury's gym, and we'll just have a look at this. Training every day according to Joseph Parker.
40 training every day, waking up early, going for a run, having a little rest, going back to the gym.
Get it! 2022 is our year! We're coming for you, suckers!
Since you've been training, is that the toughest one you've done?
Toughest one I've done.
So Parker there talking about the session that he'd done being the hardest that he's been involved in. Not exactly sure what sort of session it was, but he's putting his body through its paces. Obviously a professional athlete, you expect him to do that. And especially if he's looking to return to the ring in March, he's going to need to stay fit, stay in shape. And this is what he's saying. So he wants to be in the ring in March, just not against Hrgovic, who apparently didn't offer him enough money, but no offer was ever made. What is it? Is it just a convenient excuse, these elbow injuries, because you can rely on that and say, well, actually, all that sort of stuff. But the thing is, we know that there have been issues with the elbows in the past. But if Parker's saying he's going to be back in the ring in March or wants to be targeting March, then why would he ever say that? Why would that ever be the target if there was an issue with the elbow? It doesn't make sense. And this is where you just got to call out some of what's actually being said, because it's not consistent. Maybe they have to tell the IBF something to justify keeping a ranking place or something like that. Obviously, Luis Ortiz has come out and said, oh, well, there's an issue with my hand. Now, Joseph Parker, oh, there's an issue with my elbows. Because if you just sort of say, oh, I didn't want it, the money wouldn't be right. I mean, that's probably not going to cut it. Although, having said that, all these guys have declined it before. When the IBF went through the top 15 rankings in the past year, no one took it. Now we're going through again, except it's a much more public process. But what annoys me is, you say one thing one day, and then the next it's, I can't fight Hrgovic, my elbows. Come on. But if it is really an issue that his elbows are that bad that he can't take a fight, even though he's talking about fighting in March, then you have to raise the question, what sort of impact is this going to have on Joseph Parker's career if his elbows are believed to be so bad, again, that he can't actually get into a fight, which may suggest he may need more further work on his elbows. Famously, back in 2017, had them operated on. You can see this is a doctor on screen talking about the work that was done. Since then, he's also had a clean-up procedure. So it's a chronic injury which is being managed. But at the same time, training every day with Tyson Fury, you're targeting a fight for March, and you're feeling great, and you want to get back into a big fight for a title. But the stakes have to be right. And I think that's really what it's all about. It sort of seems to be, it's about money, not Filip Hrgovic. If the money was right, you'd fight Filip Hrgovic. I've certainly got questions about the veracity of the statements regarding these injuries, given Parker is out on social media talking about training hard every day with Fury, talking about the great sort of sessions that he's having, wanting to come back in March, and then, I can't fight Hrgovic, my elbows. Yeah. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.